Hello, my name is Julie, and I'm tired of the lockdown just like you. None of us are slow in describing our various thoughts and irritations about coping with lockdowns. Before long, we start to catastrophize. We get overwhelmed and then we exaggerate our situation. We may engage in conversations like this: "Oh, my arm, the jab hurts so much, it was so painful. I couldn't move my arm for days." Then the friend says, "Well, we're having a lovely afternoon tea. You must have bought this cake. Where'd you buy it from?" "Oh, no, I was able to make the cake." I was able to do activities like that. Sadly, we are all guilty of catastrophizing. So what exactly is catastrophizing? We could define it as a mental and emotional process responding to a negative event in such a way that we exaggerate the event. In other words, we make mountains out of molehills, and we're all guilty of doing this. But it's really not good for our mental health. In the Bible, we read about Elijah fleeing to Bathsheba after the battle he had on Mount Carmel with the prophets of Baal. He is exhausted and depleted, and he asks God to take his life. He's very, very discouraged, but God gives him food and rest, and then he tells him to continue on to Mount Horeb. When Elijah gets to Mount Horeb, Elijah then catastrophizes to Jesus and says, "I am the only one that is faithful in all of Israel. Everybody else is not faithful." And then he says, "And I'm going to die very soon." Then God informs him that there are over 7,000 faithful people in Israel, and he is still completely in control. In other words, he reassures Elijah about the actual truth of the matter. Well, what can we do to stop ourselves from catastrophizing? First of all, we need to take a break. If we're exhausted and tired, we just need to rest. You know, things don't seem so bad in the morning as they were the night before. The situation hasn't changed. We have rested. We need to pour out our hearts to God and just tell him exactly how we feel and see the situation. We've got to learn to question our own thoughts. We can correct our own thoughts, our distortions, by asking ourselves, is this really the actual truth of the matter? Challenge the validity of our negative thoughts and replace them with positive ones. You may think that you're the worst sinner there is, but then you have to challenge yourself and look and listen to your inner dialogue and change those negative thoughts into positive ones and say, yes, I am a sinner, but God saves sinners just like me. In fact, he doesn't even see me as a sinner. We must listen to God's perspective about things. His perspective is always accurate and true and hopeful. Then we must look at texts in the Bible like Romans 8:35. There is a list there of so many catastrophes, but it says that none of these can separate us from the love of God. I've always enjoyed teaching students about catastrophes. We would examine 10 events and we would arrange them from the top catastrophe to the greatest right down to the lowest. We had no trouble placing the tsunami which cost 230,000 people their lives, as a number 10. But we had a lot of discussion about where we would place an accident that killed one family member. Would it be above or below a mansion, a $10 million mansion that was burnt down in Turak, for example? It was a really good time to teach the value of things. And where would we put that you had lost your assignment and hadn't handed it in twice? Would that be a number 1? Surely not. After the lesson, I can remember going into the bag room and noticing that someone had spilt sugary drink on the floor, and there were some ants there. I went back into the room and in an exasperated voice said, "Who was the person who has disobeyed the school rules and brought some sugary drink to school, and now there are hundreds of ants crawling all over the place?" I was really abruptly stopped when a student, a very bright boy who was sitting next to me, and he had a wonderful sense of humour, said, Julie, you know, it's only a number 2. I had to sort of tell the students that was a practical example of someone who was catastrophizing. Yes, we all have negative thoughts, but let us try not to catastrophize them, because it is not good for our mental health. Thank you very much for listening.